Moral Revolution community, welcome back to our podcast. We're so glad that you joined us today. We're going to be diving into all things God's design for sexuality. Let's talk about it.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Let's Talk About It podcast by Moral Revolution. We are so glad that you've joined us today. Of course, my name's Daniel. This is my lovely wife, Ellis. And babe, why don't you introduce our guest today?
Okay, we have such a special guest today, and I feel like we almost need to give the preface that this might be a two-parter.
This is not an ordinary episode.
This is not an ordinary episode. We have in the studio today Victoria Sinis. She has come all the way from the land down under. And
that's Australia for all of you uncultured friends.
That's right.
I'm joking. That's terrible.
Oh my God.
I should not have said that. You're cultured.
You need to know this.
You're now cultured.
You are now cultured. This conversation started 2 hours ago. I think it could go another 2 hours at this point. Let me say this. Our new studio is looking fantastic.
It's looking great.
If you have not watched the podcast visually for a while, you need to stop this right now.
Stop.
Turn on YouTube. I don't care if you're driving. No, if you're driving, don't do it. But if you have the ability at all to pull this up on YouTube, you should join us on YouTube.
YouTube is where the fun is.
YouTube is where the fun is, but we are happy to put the podcast out to all these multiple platforms. Okay, jumping back into our guest.
Sorry.
Our guest, and I'm so sorry for our international audience because all of us are fast talkers on the podcast today. If you need to slow this down.
0.8 would probably sound normal.
Yeah, 0.8 will sound normal. Anything above 1.0 is going to sound fast. Okay, all that to say, we have in the studio our friend Victoria Sinis. She used to be an OnlyFans recruiter. She got radically saved and is now using her voice to expose the industry. And so we are excited to just hear her story. Of all the conversation that we've had so far today, I was like, don't tell me your story. I don't want to hear it. I need it to be a blind reaction on the show. And so we're just so excited to hear her story today. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. This has been so much fun already, so I'm so excited to just see where this goes.
It's a real shame the camera wasn't on before this very moment.
Honestly, I think people's head would hurt and they'd be like, we're done. We don't need to hear the story anymore.
Let's just pull the plug right now. It's been nice.
Yeah. That's right. Victoria, I need you to I don't know whether to tell you to start at the beginning or to start wherever you would typically start this story. I know you've probably told it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It feels right to you. How did we end up here today?
Yeah. So basically, we can go back to like all the childhood things and everything like that if we want to get into it. But how I am sitting here today on the other side of the world, it started about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
So I, in 2022, had just gone to Europe and come back in August. And one of my very close personal friends had told me when I'd come back, that while I was overseas, that they had decided that they wanted to start an OnlyFans agency. And so the reason why they wanted to start an OnlyFans agency is because someone who was very close and personal in their world was already quite a big famous star, I guess you could say, in Australia in OnlyFans and on social media. And so they were complaining about their agency. And they were like, oh, we just feel like we're really unsatisfied with them and they're not doing their job well. And so my close personal friend has an extensive educational background. I have a background in marketing and startups. And then also having another 2 girls that are already quite famous in the industry, it just seemed like the perfect concoction to be able to start an agency. So I was just asked to help them start building basically the marketing department of this. And so, yeah, it started off as like an unofficial thing, I guess you could say, more of like an advisory role. Obviously, being a startup, you guys would be well aware, like it wasn't anything official. Right. But they started building out this agency and it quickly became the biggest agency in the country.
Wow.
Very, very quickly.
In all of Australia.
Yeah.
I'm torn because I love the entrepreneurial drive. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like, I wish it was something else. Like,
idea.
we have this dope flower shop, biggest in all of Australia now.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, tell me more.
If you guys could see my face when he said that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little further.
Okay.
Because obviously you are in a totally different place in your life. If someone says, come be a part of my OnlyFans agency, and you're like, gung-ho, I'm all about it. You are not in a place at that point where you are following the Lord.
Yeah.
How did you get to where, not how did you get to where, but what what about that made you go, that sounds like a great idea? Where were you in your life at the time?
So with that, there's it's a bit of a multifaceted answer to that question, because I think that a really important part of this is the fact that there is a lot of lack of education around what OnlyFans is. So I didn't understand what it was. So you hear these rumors and these whispers that, you know, oh, I think you can just sell your feet on there. Well, it's women's liberation. It's a positive. And also there was people in my world that I personally knew that grew up in some of like the dodgiest suburbs of Melbourne and grew up quite poor. And now from a superficial perspective, they're happy, they're rich, they travel, you know, all the things. And we would congratulate that towards their success on OnlyFans.
Right.
So you would make the assumption, and again, a close personal friend who I knew very well was saying that this is okay. Therefore, you don't question it, because everyone in your world and in your circle is saying this is okay. And there's also a lack of education really around it. And I've never even watched pornography myself. I've never been exposed to it. So I didn't understand, you know, these terms like content creator and all, it's fluff.
I mean, it's quite fascinating because you would think, oh, you work for an OnlyFans agency. You're obviously very familiar with the industry of porn, or even, you know, whatever they would call it, content creation, you know, for individuals doing, you know, nudity, stuff like that. But to hear that you had never been exposed to it, and to align what you're seeing on the outside, that their lives look good, they're moving from poverty into more of a place of abundance. I mean, I would think the same thing. Oh, this has got to be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people have that misconception as well, because again, it's like this weird enigma. It's like OnlyFans, everyone hears of it, but it's in the shadows still. And so that was kind of why I was like, okay, why not? Like, I love business. I come from a background of starting up businesses. I'm obsessed with it. So cool. Why not do it with some people that I was really well familiar with? Like, this seems like a lot of fun and a great opportunity. So there was that aspect of it as to why I agreed to it, because I didn't actually know that there was anything wrong with it. And I think a lot of people don't. And so that's why I think education about it is really important, and using like the correct terminology. Like, you're not an OnlyFans content creator, you're a sex worker. Like, it's not content creation, it's pornography. But people don't use that terminology, which is why people don't think that it's a bad thing.
Well, and I feel like that's something that the world has gotten so good at, is controlling language. And trying to redefine words that we all know the definition to, and saying, oh, that's not actually the definition, say, of gender. That's not actually the definition of gender. That's not actually the definition of woman. That's not actually the definition of, you know what I mean? And saying, oh, using the word sex worker instead of pornography, or, you know, in that realm, it's so sneaky. But it almost changes the stigma in people's minds to go, this isn't the thing that I know it is.
It's not that bad. I'm not a sex worker.
It almost has an air of nobility. Like, oh, you're like out here working hard. You're, you know, you're doing things. You're providing for yourself. Which sounds great.
Yeah, literally. And so that's why that was kind of the guise I was under. Then from a personal perspective of where I was in my life, Melbourne is notorious for the party culture, the drinking culture and the drug culture. It's not this thing where it's like, if you do drugs, like you're some junkie or whatever. Like, it's the most normal thing ever. So I was exposed to cocaine at 14 years old. And I was a very big drinker as well from that age. But it's not this thing where you're like this degenerate. And you're the party, like the people, like it's the most
It's the thing to do.
It's so normal. So basically from a really, really young age, drugs and alcohol, like, were a thing in my life. Like the fast life, the party life, all the things. Obviously, I went to university for a little bit, but I was more so in like the business world. So that's kind of my mentality growing up. It was always like fast-paced things. Like, I only thought my true definition of success would be when I made it as like a bulk millionaire in like a mad business. And that was my identity. And
that's why you love the startups.
And
I love that.
I mean, what's crazy is it seems like you were on that path as well.
Yeah, truly. I really, really thought like where that ended up was like my destiny. And that I unlocked it because I was also studying psychology at the time and psychoactive psychotherapy. And so
interesting.
It's so interesting. I loved alternative medicine. It was so fascinating. I was working in the medicinal cannabis industry and I ended up quitting that to start a medicinal cannabis company as well, and all of that. And like, so we'll get into it. Like, I won't spoil what happened there, but clearly I'm not doing that anymore.
I mean, we haven't even gotten a peek under the hood yet. We're scratching the surface.
That's right.
So, but basically, so that was it. So me and my life was a very fast life, I guess you could say. A very empty life, very hollow, a lot of mental health, was suicidal from a very, very young age.
So you felt, even though it's fast-paced, it's everything you think your life is destined to be, you still feel empty, or you feel like, man, I've got it made?
It was like, it was almost there. It was almost in, but this is one thing. Oh, yeah, but
And I'm
when
sure
I do
there's
this,
some highs. I mean, quite
Of
literally,
course.
whenever you're
Yeah,
doing
absolutely.
drugs, there are highs.
But it's just out of your grasp.
It's there, but
It's
it's
elusive.
not. Like, and there was always this overwhelming sense of hopelessness for me growing up, which is where like the suicidal ideation would come from. Because I was always here, I was never there. I wanted to be there, but I'm always going to be here, and it's always just out of my reach. So that's why my manifestation for like the yearning of life's purposes was through business, through success in that, through working. Like I would flex 100-hour work weeks. Like that's not a flex. Like that sucks. That's not a life.
That used to
But
be
I
a flex.
yeah, like I thought that was the coolest thing ever, that I would do this and I would work so hard.
That
and you
I'm
couldn't.
willing to like lay down my life
Yeah.
For
the
work.
hustle.
Yeah. And
I know.
Yeah.
Oh man, my life looked completely different, but I can identify with that.
So many people can, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I was in my life. So yeah, the drinking, the drugs, the partying, all of that type of stuff, fast life, business, elite things, I guess you could say, is what I thought my life was looking like at that point. So basically what had happened is, I came back from Europe. I was told about the starting of this agency, was helping these people build the agency. And so just for people as well that are listening that aren't fully aware of what an OnlyFans agency is.
Please tell us.
Yep. So basically, for those who aren't aware of OnlyFans as well, I think just to really, really strip it back and like
Right.
make it super, because a lot of people actually still aren't aware of what OnlyFans
Yeah,
is.
because I thought at first like it was a Patreon. Which
Kind of, yeah.
Patreon is a similar mechanic of
Yep,
business,
yep.
but what they're selling is much different.
Yes.
And I will
correct.
say that I am in a Facebook group for this podcast, and I'll just read through people's stories. I mean, these are not people who don't know the Lord, and I'll see people who say, "Oh my gosh, I just found out that my boyfriend has been subscribing to OnlyFans X, Y, and Z," and all the comments will be like, "Man, porn is one thing, but OnlyFans is a step further." And in my mind, I was like, isn't it all the same?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it
Yeah.
all the same?
Truly.
And so I'm just trying to understand, why.
Yeah, so jump in, define
Yeah,
it for us. What is
yeah.
OnlyFans? What does an agency
Yep,
look like?
Yep. And so basically OnlyFans had started in 2016. And so the whole point of it was to decentralize social media. So with like TikTok, Instagram, all of that, it's like these mass forums. And like if you want to niche down into what you're interested in, there's a little bit more of like sifting that you have to do. Where just say if I was like, hey, I love to cook and I am not going to go like release a book and publish that, but I'm an excellent cook, I'll jump onto OnlyFans and then I can lock my page, and then you can pay to see me cook. You can talk to me. You can message me, ask me about all my recipes and stuff like that.
Which is really brilliant.
And so it's a great concept.
It's almost
But-
like a YouTube channel that you have to pay to be a subscriber of.
But the allure of it is you can talk directly to Victoria. So
Oh,
we
okay.
can instantly message each other and we can talk about the content that I'm posting on my OnlyFans
The recipes.
page. Yeah. Yeah.
The recipes.
The recipes, my cookbook. And so, but they have this thing on there called Not Safe for Work. So Not Safe for Work is pornography content.
Got
And
it.
so in 2020, OnlyFans really, really blew up during COVID with all of these girls jumping online and doing pornographic content on OnlyFans. And so that's why it's now got this name as this basically porn site. And so the allure of OnlyFans is that, and that's the key here, and this is like really, really important for when I explain what an agency is traditional pornography. You jump online, you see this girl, whatever, you might know of her, she's super famous or whatever, or it's just nameless and faceless people that are on a porn website. With OnlyFans, the allure is I see that girl on social media, I get to go talk to her on OnlyFans, and I have a one-on-one connection with her. And so that is the whole reason why I think OnlyFans has really popped off, because people feel like they know the
that
girl.
it's accessible.
Yeah.
That person is accessible to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so that's where OnlyFans has really blown up, and it's kind of just stuck there in like this pornography realm.
Man, does
I
that
think-
not just get so creepy?
Well,
Yeah.
I think you can also exploit like the desire for intimacy,
Oh,
because
yeah.
people want this closeness, and the lack of intimacy and the pain of not having intimacy, just a closeness,
Totally.
a vulnerability of being known will drive people to do some pretty insane things.
Well, yeah. Like
and so it really scratches that itch. Of course, we know not authentically,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a
because
counterfeit.
it makes sense why it blew up in COVID, because what was happening during COVID?
Everyone's isolated.
isolation.
Yep.
Yeah.
People are yearning for a connection. They're wanting to talk to someone. They're wanting some sort of relationship in any capacity. So it really makes sense as to why it became so big during COVID.
Yeah.
And so what an OnlyFans agency is basically the one that I worked at. I kind of break it down into 3 different aspects. So number 1, and the most important one, is OnlyFans account management. So if you have a girl that has just say 10,000 subscribers on her OnlyFans account,
What does the average person on OnlyFans, how many subscribers would they have?
it varies. It truly can vary.
Yeah,
Like,
it would be like asking how many the average follower on Instagram.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's the spectrum is so wide.
Okay.
That I think would be really hard to like.
Narrow it down.
Yeah.
Got it.
But so basically,
What would success be considered?
I think anything more than like 5,000 subscribers.
Oh, so you would be pretty successful with 5,000.
You would make the assumption, and I
Yeah,
just
'cause
have to, yeah. No, I was going to say, I just want to preface this as well and we can get into that. We were actually chatting before about the fact that like an average wage is like 140 USD, which is like, so when I talk about the agency I worked at, we just have to remember for anyone listening to this that this was an anomaly. These were the minimum to be at this agency as a startup was 5,000 USD you had to be making a month. And so there was kind of a higher entry because already we had clout, we had fame, we had all these things. So I don't want people to hear this and hear how I'm talking about the world that we were in and think that that's a normal reflection.
And think that that's the rule. That's the
Yeah.
exception to the rule.
I also want a disclaimer. If there are any guys listening to this podcast and you have struggled with pornography or anything like that, we're talking about this website and you get curious about what does the homepage look like?
Yeah.
What is the functionality?
Oh, whoa,
what is
I
the
feel like
whatever?
we're gonna really
Do
shatter the
not
curiosity in
get
a second.
curious.
Yeah.
Do not go visit this website. I don't
Yeah.
care if you're looking for recipes or not. Disclaimer, we do not
I
endorse
don't actually
it.
have a cookbook on OnlyFans,
Yeah,
guys.
you should not visit it. Do not get curious.
And you said this, and it was so quick. So I'm gonna just say it
Yeah.
again. The average person, if you were to Google it, what the average person who has an OnlyFans account makes per month is 140
Yeah.
US dollars.
Yeah.
140. I think that blew my mind because there is this stigma of, man, if I'll just do this, if I'll just put myself out there in this way, that would be the ticket to financial freedom. If
Yeah.
I would just compromise myself in this way, I would be making bank.
140 ain't paying the rent.
$140
That's not even doing
is
your
not paying the
groceries,
rent.
like,
no,
yeah.
no, that's not paying for a trip to Target. Not if you take my husband.
Okay, well, you're right, but
Anyway, I even asked my best friend when I heard that was the average number. I asked her, "Hey, if you had to guess what the average person on OnlyFans makes per month, what would you guess?" She was like, "I don't know, 5-10 grand a month," and I was like, $140.
Yeah.
And she was shocked. And I think that all goes into this stigma of this mysterious glorification of the sex industry, is that it is, if you would just tap into this would unlock so much for it would solve so many of your problems. It would do X, Y, and Z. And I also think it's interesting. I was thinking about this when we were talking about it before the podcast, that the perception of the church is the exact opposite. The perception of a relationship with Jesus is, man, if I give my life to Christ, it's
I'm
going to
gonna lose
lock me
everything.
down.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
it's-
going to
yeah,
lose everything.
yeah.
I mean, think about how the stigma of those two things are so opposite.
Yeah.
That
Truly.
we look at the thing that is going to lead to death and we say, maybe that will lead to life. And we look at the thing that leads to life, I mean, and we go, man, I would lose everything.
Yeah.
That would only lead to death.
Yeah.
That is the enemy's handprints are all
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah, that's why, like, in this generation, I think that it is, as you were saying before, like, about language. It's so important to call things out as they are, because there's so much deception and misconception in this world of what is right, what is wrong, what is real, what is fake, and like all of that type of stuff, because it's so blatantly obvious. OnlyFans, bad. Porn, bad. But people are like, wait, but what about this? Like, Jesus, honestly, freedom, great, love, amazing. But people are like, I don't know about that one. And it's like, make it make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so go back into, you're telling
Yeah.
us how the agency works.
Yeah. Aspect number one of an agency is account management. And so basically, as I was saying, if a girl has 5,000 up people on her, so they're called subscribers. And so think about that. If a girl is sitting there, can you talk to 5,000 people at
Absolutely
once, 7
not.
days a week?
No.
Absolutely not. Well, what's
Is the agency talking to people on their behalf?
So what happens, it's account management. So your role is to actually pretend to be the girl on their behalf. But what you do, here's the kicker. This is why when you're like curiosity, this is really, you are not the one talking. You actually hire people from third world countries and you pay them about $2 to $5 USD a month. Ours were from
$2 to $5?
Yeah.
$2 to $5 a month?
And they work 6 to 7 days a week for 12 to 14 hours on a computer pretending to be the girl. Yeah. And so majority of the girls that you might follow on OnlyFans that you think you're talking to, that you think you have a personal relationship, it's not. Ours were literally people from the Philippines.
You're talking to some dude
Yeah, in the Philippines.
in the Philippines.
Or like any other third world country potentially, but majority of them come from the Philippines. Yeah.
Dang.
I know.
Like, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, like,
I laugh about it now because I'm like,
I'm
it's
like-
kind of funny, but like that's where
it's also kind
Yeah.
of disgusting.
it's also kind of disgusting.
I
Not
am-
kind of like it is.
I am flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because think about it though. If you're running a business, you cannot. This is a service-based business.
It is customer service.
And
Correct.
and also
And you
time
know
and sales.
And what they say is the first thing you do whenever you have a business is hire someone for customer service.
Yeah.
and also time is money.
Yep.
The person who is driving all the revenue can't be the person spending all of their time in the DMs.
Yep, correct. Absolutely. So how could you sit there and talk to all these people, all these different time zones, take photos, do the content, do the custom requests, do all, you cannot facilitate that. So you have to offset that work. An agency comes in and we can't be on the accounts 24/7. So we offset that to other people. So then you have a third party, which is basically pretending to be the girl. It's a sales role. We would train them in the girlfriend experience. And so
The
literally,
girlfriend
yeah,
experience.
that's what we would call it.
What
That's
does that
cute. That's a good name.
What
It's
does
so
the
fun.
What does the girlfriend experience entail?
And this is where what we were talking about before about connection and everything. This is why I have so much empathy for subscribers. Because what are they doing? Why are you coming onto OnlyFans to connect with this random girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is this working? Why is a girlfriend experience of someone sitting there going, "Good morning, honey. Hey, babe. I was just thinking about you." Yeah, like there was ones where like, yeah, like let's romanticize about us lying down, like looking at the stars together. And like people care about the connection and the relationship. That's the overarching theme. Of course, people come on there for a transaction. It's so complex, like the mentality of a subscriber, but the overarching theme is that the girlfriend experience works because it makes them feel that they have a connection and that this girl actually cares about them.
And no wonder that people have such a hard time connecting to anyone in real life.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, because you can just jump onto this and have this girl basically say all these things to you hypothetically.
All the right things.
Satisfy you sexually. And all you have to do is just, you don't have to go talk to someone and go up to them and make effort and take them on a date and have a shower and
Be
like,
brave.
And then
and-
them
Oh.
and them likely not be as, hot,
Yeah.
for like whatever.
and like actually just ask
Like
them
this is a normal
questions,
human, not
yeah.
a model.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
So that's aspect kind of number one. So basically what you do is you onboard a girl, you do this thing called a brief, and in the brief, they have to answer a set of questions. So then we can give that to the chatter so the chatter can best represent the girl. So, and then of there, you look at the health of the account. You go through and do like a full audit. How many subscribers do they have? Who are their main subscribers? Who are their top sellers? All that type of stuff.
Who's
so then,
bringing in the most income?
yeah. And so then your job is just basically manage the health of the account, make sure that it's making money, make sure that the chatters are making money. Like it's commission job. They have to plug in how much money they made that day, what was their actual target, why didn't they reach it, like all of that type of stuff. So it's a full organization.
Well, what's crazy is if you think about that money, now, once again, this is a little more business.
Yeah.
They're making hundreds of dollars, maybe more, and they're getting paid
2 to 5.
nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
$2
This
to
is-
$5 a month.
This is
Yeah. No, sorry. 2 to 5 USD an hour.
okay.
An hour.
okay.
Sorry.
I was like
sorry.
a month. I was
Sorry,
like that is.
sorry.
I was like that's slavery. You could find more money on the ground
Yeah,
than that.
yeah. No, an hour.
Okay.
Still, it's
Still,
still,
it's
yeah,
not
bad.
ideal.
But I was thinking $2 a month. This is slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I-
in
that's
itself,
what I was
I'm like,
thinking.
I feel like it's fraud because these
Yeah.
people are under the guise that they're talking to a girl and
Okay.
they're literally having this, like, giving money to a girl, but they're not. They're giving it to these chatters.
That girl doesn't know you exist.
Yeah.
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 No.
Literally. So that's aspect number one of an agency. Aspect number two of the agency is where I came in, and that's marketing.
Okay.
So basically, if you think about it again, we need to have subscribers. How do you get people? Well, you need to pull them in from social media. And so basically the ones that we would focus on was TikTok and Instagram, but it was also Reddit, Twitter. You can do Snapchat, dating apps, like any type of form, you can basically market girls. And so what we would do is we hired a third party as well that would study algorithms and study trends. So every single day, this person would send us trending sounds, trending videos, trending skits, whatever it was, very specific curated ones. And we would make sure that the girls were recreating these. So the girls had to have about 3 to 5 TikTok accounts. And on those TikTok accounts, this is how like saturated, so how targeted it is. And
Why
all
would
that.
one girl have multiple accounts?
Virality.
Okay.
We would get girls because as well, so there's so many reasons as to that. Reason number one is you want as much exposure as possible because you want to pull in as many people as possible, and then you bring them through these funneling systems that end them up on OnlyFans.
Okay.
So you want that, and then as well, because you're posting provocative content, it's not nudity or anything like that, but it's extremely suggestive. Account bans, you want to make sure that they have the other account up, and you want to make sure that there's a constant influx of them being promoted on social media.
Got it.
So you would have about 3 to 5 different TikTok accounts, and they would have to post on those TikTok accounts because TikTok picks up if you post like the same video across all accounts. So they had to all be original videos. You'd have to do about 15 to 20 videos every single day to post across these accounts of this very specific curated content. And the whole point of it was so someone would be scrolling and they'll see like this cute girl like doing these sexy things or whatever and go, I wonder if she has more. I wonder if she has a link because that's so normal nowadays. And so from there, it takes you through to Instagram. And on Instagram, it's where all your reels are posted. Again, you'll have multiple accounts for this in case they get shut down. And then from there, you have your little link tree. And on your link tree, it's so easy. You find the OnlyFans and then beautiful, we have a subscriber. So they were the main ones that we would focus on. Then you've got your Reddits and your Twitters and all of that where you can... And that gets wild. That gets into we were talking to people in like the Ukraine and Germany, the VPNs, proxies, fake accounts, suicide accounts, like all the things. So it's like...
What is a suicide account?
So on Snapchat and dating apps and stuff like that, because you're making these like fake accounts, essentially, they get marked really, really quickly. So you can kind of go on there for like a day or two through like VPNs and these fake profiles and quickly pull people to OnlyFans, and then the account gets shut down. So it's called a suicide account.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because the account's not going to last.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So on dating apps and stuff like that, like they can't really last because they get flagged so quickly, but you can kind of pull people in really fast if you have like a good system set up. So they were the ones we were looking at, which are a little bit more elaborate. But basically when I was there, the main one was TikTok and Instagram. And we were getting girls with like no followers, no nothing in 7 days to like 3.2 million views. And so...
That's crazy.
Because you have someone who's literally studying the algorithm
Yep.
to see the most effective content possible
Yep.
and feeding it to you on a daily basis.
Yep.
And content is being created in the moment
Yep.
to maximize on the most viral trends possible.
And like if you think about that, what's that doing as well? Of course you're pulling in subscribers, you're pulling in revenue, but if this is what's getting rewarded, so if you have multiple women that are getting these millions of views, all these followers, quick, all of that, you're training people to think that this is a desirable woman because look at what they're getting rewarded for. So women are going, okay, therefore I must act like this because I want to be rewarded too.
Right.
And then men are seeing this that's saturated on social media, even if it's subliminally, because look at the volume that one agency is producing, just one in the world. And so you're seeing this, so you're going, okay, that's a desirable woman because this is what I'm seeing everywhere and this is what's getting rewarded. But what you're not understanding is that that's not accurate because we're bending the algorithms, we're manipulating it to have virality. But in our world, you see a lot of views, you see a lot of followers, and you think that that's like a reward. You think that that's a positive. That means that person must be doing something right because
They're like legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why we have this like over sexualized culture now. And that's why we're rewarding this behavior and acting like this. And men are viewing women in this way and women are thinking they have to be this way because you have agencies and stuff like that. That's literally soft influencing through social media to basically manipulate your mind to think that this is normal. So that's aspect number 2.
Oh my gosh.
Riveting.
I am so speechless almost. It's just so much more complicated and deep. I mean, like, I knew it was. Logically, it's like, it has to be. You know what I mean? But, like, hearing the methodology of it is wild.
I think that people think that, but honestly, you don't really, because again, OnlyFans has just kind of popped up. Like, people are just kind of getting famous. Like, unless you're in like the content creator world, or unless you're in like these type of, no one really understands how much work is actually put into this stuff. And so you just see that
Because
picture
it
that
could
gets
look
posted.
so effortless.
Yeah.
I mean, as all, really well things are. They look effortless.
Correct. A day in a
well-done
life. Oh,
things.
it's so easy. I just quickly video this, and but no, like, we're sitting here. I'm pulling the phone out. I'm doing this. I'm editing it. I'm doing so.
Yeah.
Everything seems so seamless in our world, but it's not. And
Right.
so that's also why it's really important, I think, to talk about the details of how intricate this is. Because again, I just jump on OnlyFans. It's so easy. Don't worry about it. And it's like, well, actually, no. Like, it's not as simple as you just get to jump on and then you just make a bunch of money. Like, I literally, we would say to the girls, like, you have to do, the lighting has to be this way. This is how much skin you have to show. This is how in frame you have to be. There was so many specific requirements that were needed for just the TikTok videos. So that's aspect number 2. So account management, then marketing. That's what I was brought in for. And then aspect number 3 is recruitment.
Okay. I know you laid out what marketing. What were you? What's your day to day? Like, what were you doing specifically?
Yeah, so basically, once a girl was onboarded, I would do a marketing call with them, and my role was basically to get them hyped for the marketing requirements. So I would explain to them that this is what we have to do. This is basically how many TikTok accounts you need, how many Instagram accounts you need, what the funneling systems look like, and all of that. And basically, because it is such a high workload, and these girls are under the impression that I'm joining OnlyFans, I don't have to do a lot of work. I need to get them excited to do the work. So there was that aspect. And then as well, basically monitoring all the accounts to make sure that they were posting every single day. So I, on Telegram, would get all the videos that the girls needed to recreate every single day. I would send the videos to the girls. I would watch all of their TikTok accounts, all the 3 to 5 that all the girls had, make sure that they were posting every single day. And from there, I was then converting those from TikToks into Reels. And so it has to go through this thing called TickSave or whatever.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, cool. And
For
then
different reasons.
Yeah,
not for OnlyFans reasons, guys.
For moral revolution reasons.
And did you just out yourself? No.
Oh my gosh, let's hope not.
And then post them on Instagram, and then also was looking into all the different Reddit stuff, because Reddit in itself is just a beast, because
It's a whole different world.
Yeah. So then we were looking at that. We were looking at Twitter. So it was just kind of like the development of other departments of marketing, as well as kind of getting
That
a really
sounds
solid.
exhausting.
It does. Let me ask you this. As you were meeting with girls and getting them hyped, did you ever, what was the attitude of most of the girls? Are they excited about this? Are they
are they trying to
nervous
match
about
your
this?
energy?
Are
or-
they unwilling? What was the general response or
Like,
attitude?
did you have to
from
like
a girl?
twist their arm into like being
Some of them,
excited
absolutely.
about
I
it?
got in a fight with one of them about it.
No
but
way.
basically, so it was a mixed bag, because you had some people already who were quite well known in OnlyFans, and they're like, I haven't had to do any work. So why are you making me try to do work now? And we're like, well, you're a part of an agency. We want to maximize it.
Right.
So therefore, there's requirements to maximize and to have longevity in your account, because you can't just expect to do the same thing you're doing and have this steady level of growth. It doesn't work like that. So because a lot of them maybe had just started in the past 12 months or whatever, they already had a big following on social media. So that's why the interest was there. But for like sustainability, you need to be doing things. Then as well, there was some girls. So some of them were like, this is so lame. This is so embarrassing. I don't want to do it. I'm like, well, you want to be a part of our agency? Then basically you have to do the marketing requirements. Because as mentioned, the whole allure of the agency, and when we get into recruitment, we can talk about that, but was this is elite. This is luxurious. You come to us, you have a sisterhood, you go to these fancy parties, you go to these fancy dinners, you have the lifestyle that is encompassed when you come to the agency.
There's an allure to the agency.
Yeah, it's not that it's just an agency, because there was other things that we would provide. Right. And so it's like, you want all those things, then you must do these marketing requirements because you have to have that baseline of 5,000 USD that you're making to stay in the agency.
So you guys would like put on parties and create atmospheres where they would show up, create content that wasn't as provocative, but definitely
so we would have like
portrayed
content
a
days and
lifestyle.
stuff, and it would be like big mansions, and it would be like bikini. We never filmed pornography,
right?
But we would do stuff like that. We'd have mansion parties, have like the fancy dinners and stuff, and so that
It's
was
like
the
a
lifestyle.
bootstrap Playboy mansion. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Like they literally, the owners wanted to be like the Australian version of Playboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the, I guess, the caliber of what it was. But like, I don't want to, I'm sure we'll get into
You
it.
don't
Like,
want to
it's not
romanticize.
glamorous.
Yeah, you don't want to
it's not
romanticize
glamorous.
it. It's
really
not
dark.
glamorous.
Yeah,
right.
no,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
We got it.
Yeah, disclaimer. This is dark stuff.
Yeah, but I
This
think
is-
it's good because people think this. They think that they'll hear this. And they go, wait a minute, you were there. You were at that point. You were around these girls that we see on social media that look like they have that luxurious lifestyle, that look like, you know, it's this eliteness and it's this. And it's like, it's so dark. I remember being at one of the launch parties that we had and I was looking around and I was like, this is sad. I'm with some of the biggest influencers in Australia. We're at this $100 million house in Queensland. It's beautiful. It's all, and I remember standing there and I looked around at all these people and I'm like, this is kind of sad. And it's because you can feel, and it's not mean, and I understand it because I was there. So I was a part of the problem, but you can feel the desperation. You can feel the emptiness. You can feel the yearning for something to perform to whatever it is. And it's like, it's so empty.
And for them, it was just like you. It was just out of grasp.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I could
Truly.
just imagine this, you know, taking it now a spiritual direction. If you have people so engrossed in this lifestyle, I just feel like there would be such a spirit of heaviness.
Yep.
Where it's like everyone is feeling this weight and this, you know, I'm sure it's, you know, there's tons of insecurity and all of these different emotions that really our souls aren't meant to stand up strong under those kind of feelings. And so, I think that it's good to expose the allure of the, you know, the luxury is not giving you fulfillment. The connection with other high level performers are not giving you fulfillment. The photo days are not giving, none of that is giving you what your heart actually desires.
Yeah, truly. Like, and so just to kind of, I guess, jump back into the girls and everything and what their attitudes were.
Yeah.
It was a variance. So yeah, some of them were really excited because they just jumped on board. Maybe they were fresh to OnlyFans, or we recruited them to OnlyFans. So super, super fresh. So they're like, oh my gosh, again, big bright eyes because the world's at their fingertips, so to speak. And then you've got
Which with your role, that's a best case scenario.
Yeah, best case scenario because they're super hungry, they're ready, they're happy to work, they treat it like a business and all of that. So I'm like, beautiful. So I just got to tick off, yep, they've done their videos, repost them, do all the things, happy days. And then obviously there's some who are like, no, this is literally like the lamest thing ever and I'm not happy about it. So then that's where you have to, well, you know, you want your account to perform, you want this, you want the money, you want this, well, therefore this is part of the requirements.
You
and you have
sell.
those. Yeah. So you have to have those conversations as well. And then aspect number 3 of an agency is recruitment. So again, business, you need to be bringing girls in. And so basically what you do there is just scour the internet. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, there's a specific requirement that you're looking for. So number 1 and the most important is, are they already posting provocative content? And if they are, that means that either they probably have an OnlyFans, or if they don't, they're more likely to accept working a role in OnlyFans. And so then from there, you have a look, all right, this girl, she's posting like this type of content already. Click on her profile. How many followers does she have? Because if you have too little of a following, then it's too much work, because then where are you going to pull all your people from? And then if you've got too big of a following, the likelihood that you're already kind of financially set and like you're maybe not as enticed, or you're already making a bunch of money in only, you know what I mean? So it's like too hard basket either or. So about from like 20 to 50,000 up to about 1 million followers is like the sweet spot, and you're already posting this type of content already. So from there, you just cold message the girl. We would either do it from the agency account, or if we really wanted a girl, we would get 2 of the owners that were already famous in this world to message them, because either it's like, oh, this agency's messaging us, or wow, blah blah's messaged us, I must be special.
Yeah.
And then as well, it would also be the thing that we started to look for, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, like the most 3 search things in porn: fresh teen, barely legal. So then we're also looking for young girls. So we're looking for girls that look like they're teenagers, that look like they're 18. And if they're not, if they're like 20, 21, 22, whatever, will they lie and say that they're fresh 18? So they're kind of the categories that we're looking for. And then you just cold message them, you get them on a recruitment call. And there was only one person at the agency, one of the owners, who could do the recruitment calls. Because they would just, if they were working for the Lord, they would be the craziest evangelists ever. Like the way that they could just, yeah, it was insane. So that person would always be the one to do the recruitment calls, onboard the girl, and then you start the life cycle of obviously the account management, social media marketing, repeat the cycle. So that's an OnlyFans agency.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's That's heavy. That's a lot involved with that.
Yeah.
Now, if this is too early, let me know, but I'd really like to shift the conversation and understand, as you're going through the agency, you're having the recognition that this is pretty a hollow place. This is a pretty hollow place. When did you have the moment where, the Lord really quickened you, pulled you out of that, called you to himself, and your life began to change?
And was it a 180, or did you start feeling dissatisfied and then you started wondering, or was it just like, man, God spoke and I went?
So what had started happening, so basically I was in an unofficial position at the agency for 6 months before that they could afford to actually bring me on as a contractor. I lasted as a contractor for 5.5 weeks because of how dark it really was. And so what had started happening is this: I'm doing all the social media stuff. So I'm seeing all the Instagram content, bikini, lingerie, very desensitized. I actually haven't even at this point jumped onto the back end of OnlyFans and understood that this is pornography. And that might sound silly to people, but again, like, naivety is like huge in my generation, in our culture.
Right.
If you don't know, you don't know. So basically what had happened is, again, we're impersonating people. If someone's doing all the OnlyFans account management, I'm doing all the social media marketing, and the subscribers talking to the girl on Instagram and on OnlyFans, well, there's a disconnect. So they're starting to notice that there's holes in the story. So we realized that we needed to not do me doing all the social media, then someone else doing all the OnlyFans. We need to split it in half, and then you're in charge of the full life cycle of less girls. Does that make sense? Cool. And so that's when I started to see everything. When I started to jump on the back end and do account management. And it was a weird thing because it's like, these girls are a commodity in your brain in one half, but then because I'd already met these girls, I already knew them, and I already built relationships with them to some capacity, then I'm seeing their porn and I'm like, oh, like, you're so, and you're doing this, you're what? Like, oh, and then I've never been exposed to porn. So then I'm seeing porn for the first time, and they're girls that I know and that I like and that I laugh with and hang out with. And so I started to feel really uncomfortable in the role, and I started to just like cry every single day, and like, I get emotional talking about it because it's just so sad, because these are like, anyways. And so one day I'm managing this girl's account, and she was the highest earner at the agency, and she was one of the girls that we would lie and say was a fresh 18-year-old. And I'm looking at her profile, and I have 7 little nieces under the age of 3. And I love these like little girls so much, but I was looking at this girl and something just went in my mind. One of my nieces is going to grow up and look exactly like this girl.
Wow.
And it just hit me. I was like, that could be my niece one day. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And I wouldn't be okay with that.
And I wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah.
And then my brain just started to spiral. And I was like, but that's someone's niece. Why is it okay that she's doing it? And so from there, I started to ask questions. And so I'd ask people at the agency, the workers and stuff, like, what do you think about what we're doing? Because you have to remember that everyone in my world thinks this is okay. Everyone doesn't see a problem with this. And one person said to me that it's like a safe injecting heroin room. People need a safe place to do drugs. We give people a safe place to do porn. And then other people were just like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, this makes me a lot of money. And then some people, like, I just bury my head in the sand. And I was feeling really dissatisfied with those answers, and they just weren't sitting right with me. And so I ended up like, it was so weird. I had this random thought. I was like, I'm going to offset all the bad that I'm doing with something good. And I was like, you know,
we tried.
You know what? Here's the deal. I don't think that that's an uncommon thought.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people.
It's justice.
Yeah.
I want the scales to be balanced.
Yeah.
I know that this is bad. Let me do good so there's an equilibrium in my soul.
Truly.
Yeah.
And this is where like Jesus is so good, because he meets you where you are.
Right.
I wasn't looking for the Lord. I wasn't looking for salvation. In my selfishness, I was looking to offset the bad I was doing with something good. And I was building a cannabis company at the time as well. And so my train of thought was, I'm going to go to Greece and help refugees. Don't know why Greece, but I was like, sick, let's do it. We're going to go to Greece and help refugees.
And one of your parents is from Greece,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So again, probably in my selfishness, I was like, go have a holiday, help some people, feel good about myself, come back. The cannabis company will be up and running by then. Don't have to do OnlyFans anymore. Amazing. And I had this random memory. I grew up going to church, but stopped going when I was like 12, and as you can see, did not live a life according to any biblical principles in any capacity. But there was this weird thought that, that church I used to go to as a kid had like this refugee program. Sick, I'll sign up for that. So I signed up for this refugee program at my church. And this is where it starts to go really cool. That email never went to the department that helped with like outreach. It went to the young adults pastor. And it said, Victoria wants to wants to reach out to the church. Here's her number, call her. And it had my phone number. She showed me the email like months later.
Stop.
And so I get this call from this random girl. And she's like, hey, like, do you want to come down to church? And like, I'd alluded a little bit to like what was going on, but I kind of thought we were going to talk about refugees. And I rock up to church on a Thursday, and I'm sitting in my car at the front of church. And I was like, I can't go in there. I'm such a bad person. I will literally burst into flames. Like, and I'm wrestling with myself. And I was like, I can't go in there. I can't. I was like, Vic, you're just here. You're at the front now. This girl's waiting for you. Just walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk in, and I start to just word vomit to this poor lady, everything. And I'm like, I don't know about the OnlyFans and this and that, and it makes me feel bad, but like cannabis, like I don't, and like just like everything. And this sweet girl, she's just like, she took a minute and she goes, the cannabis seems like a really good idea.
No.
And she's just trying to be kind and not be like, you're cooked, like this is all wrong. But it was so sweet.
The cannabis
That's noble.
seems like a good idea.
Like, get away from the porn, it's not good.
Like, I'm gonna try and choose the lesser of two. Oh my goodness.
She tried.
She tried, but what she said was this. She goes, I really think that you should come to church this Sunday. I think you'll really resonate with the speaker. And so I rock up to church on a Sunday, and I'm like in the balcony at the back where the degenerates are, like
Yeah.
all the things.
Where I belong.
Yeah, exactly. But get this. The woman in church hadn't been to church in like, at our church in like 10 years or 12 years.
The guest
hadn't
speaker?
been- yeah. I hadn't been in like more than 12 years. Happens to be there this weekend, find out the series of events that led her to be there that weekend was insane. And she's talking in church about this over-sexualized culture that we live in and how things like OnlyFans are destroying our youth and that it's ruining the next generation. And Christians are supposed to be the salt and the light of this earth, and we have failed. And we need to protect our children because look at what's happening on social media. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I work at an OnlyFans agency, and I'm just getting destroyed. And so I ran down to her after she finished speaking, and I went up to her and I was like, hi, my name's Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And she doesn't judge me. This is why I care so much about doing what I do now. She didn't say, you're bad, you're this, you need to repent, she goes, let's have lunch. And she sat with me for hours and she answered all my questions. And I said, isn't it like a safe injecting heroin room? Like, don't people, ethical, like all these things. And she didn't say, you're stupid, you're dumb, nothing. She answered my questions. And that was on a Sunday. By the Friday, I quit the agency. I walked away from the business. I walked away from the friendships, everything. 8 weeks later, sober, baptized. And now 11 months later, we're on the other side of the world.
You really summed that up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Victoria, that's incredible. And it's incredible that the Lord would care so much to align those events.
Yeah.
You know, that,
Truly.
To chalk it up to irony would be short-sighted.
Yeah.
You know, but the Lord reaches us where we were or where we are. And it seems like, he just divinely pulled you out of darkness. And, you know, that the call you have on your life is really to expose the industry. And so I look at that and then I say, thank you, Jesus.
Truly.
You know,
yeah.
and I know that I feel like there's probably many more of you maybe that we don't know, that we haven't heard of yet and stuff like that. But I just, wow. You know, I'm comprehending it all as I'm saying it. But
This was a blind reaction.
yeah, I just think the Lord is so good.
He
Yeah.
is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why when I say, like, it wasn't that I was searching. It was in my selfishness. That's why you, like, literally, like, come as you are. It doesn't matter. I wasn't perfect. Like, even between that day at church and those 8 weeks to getting sober and baptized, I had still binged drugs 3 times. You know, but the thing is, like, Jesus doesn't, like, he doesn't care. Like, I remember I went out one night with the full intention, you know what, I'm not going to touch drugs tonight. I'm going to be really good, blah, blah, blah. I got cooked until like 3 a.m. on cocaine, and I still went to church that morning. Hi. But Jesus he's not ridiculing me. I was struggling. I needed help.
Yeah,
And it wasn't
truly.
until I surrendered that he gave me supernatural sobriety that doesn't
Right.
make any sense. So that's why I care so much about that emphasis of I wasn't perfect in any capacity. And even coming back, yes, it took 5 days to walk away from that life, but there was still rocky grounds for a little bit. And Jesus never ridiculed me. He never pointed a finger. He was never like, you've stuffed up now, you're screwed, like you're too far gone. And that's why it's like, that's what's so beautiful about our God, and it's so unfathomable because really it doesn't. And even if you trip and you make mistakes and you this and you that, he's not. I had one of my pastors back home put it like this, and she goes, you know, when like a little toddler's like learning to walk and they take 2 steps and then they fall and then they get back up, and she's like, that's how God sees us. And he's like, oh, like amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. And I think that people don't really, I still can't fully comprehend that grace.
Yeah.
But that's how you go from being literally like, to put in like dead.
Right.
And Jesus just goes, let me just love on you. And then you can do
I
unfathomable
will love
things.
you back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have purpose, you have wholeness, you have a future, you have all these things that you never thought were possible. And it's like, it's just the craziest. It's so hard to comprehend, but everyone deserves it, you know? Like there's no one who's too far gone.
Yeah. Victoria, I want to flip to the other side of
Yeah.
this coin real quick. Cuz we've talked a lot from the girl's perspective,
Yeah.
and and then of course the redemption story that you've shared of God meeting you. And listen, I'm not mad, I'm not upset, I
Yeah.
don't hate you, I want to love you into repentance, into a greater lifestyle. Is there anything that you would say? Because the reality is that there will probably be some male listeners, or there might be some male listeners who have been on OnlyFans, who have contributed to that world. And, they could be feeling that sense of shame, maybe that sense of, I'm doing it, I don't want to, all this stuff. What would you say to maybe some of our listeners who have been on the other side of OnlyFans as a consumer rather than a contributor?
It's a great question. I think that, and it might be controversial to say this, and I know that it is in this activism world to a little bit, but we need to have so much empathy, I feel, for sex buyers, because what is being tapped into for males, it is the weakest part of their essence. Because men's sexuality, for women, it's not, there's a pull there, of course, and we need to acknowledge that, but for men, it hits something else for them, and that's why it's such a problem. And so I think that as a culture and as a community, we need to be so empathetic towards that, because it's a lack of love. That's the overarching theme of sex buyers. At the end of the day, it's that they've been abused, or they're lonely, or they're this. They're not bad people that are just looking to exploit girls and all of this, because there's something that's broken in them to a degree. And I really believe that in my truest essence. And so it's about, from a perspective, from a community of just going, you know what, that's okay. Like if someone talks to you about it, if they're struggling with it, I get it. Like, let's get to the root cause. Like, why are you feeling this way? Are you okay? And then as someone who's watching it, it is so important. Like, this industry thrives on shame. That is what its like power is, to shame you. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I do watch porn, I do struggle with it, I haven't told anyone, like, we need to shatter that narrative and that lie right now, that you will be judged and that you will be condemned, that you are too far gone, because that's not the truth in any capacity. You need to tell someone, you need to be open and honest about it, and you need to get support from a community. And so it's both sides of the spectrum. You need to be honest, you need to talk about it with anyone that you feel safe and comfortable with. And then from our end, if people are coming to us in any capacity, we need to not go, you're about, it's like, no, okay, I get it, thank you so much for telling me, how can we work on this, how can I keep you accountable, do you need to see a therapist, what can we do to support you during this? And I think that that's the most important thing that we can do.
One of the things that we say all the time is that porn isn't the problem.
Yeah.
It's a bad solution to a deeper problem.
Yeah.
And I think, at its very essence, it's a desire for connection.
Yeah.
People want connection. You know what I mean? And you don't know how to go about it. You don't know how to get your needs met. You don't know how to connect with what's going on inside of your soul. And so you're looking for a way to cope, and you're getting your needs met. I'm putting, for those who are listening and not watching, I'm putting quotations, you're getting your needs met, but you're not actually. It's just a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. And what you actually need is surgery.
Yeah, truly.
To understand the pain that's underneath and to heal it from the inside out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that that's really important. I think for people like in faith, that's a really important one. And then if, like, I guess from like a secular perspective, it's actually educating people on why this is bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if they don't understand, like if you have faith, you understand like why we don't do these things. But if you don't have any of that context in any capacity, I think it's really important, again, to give people a lot of grace and just education.
Right.
On, do you understand why this is bad? Do you understand why we don't watch porn? Like,
Yeah,
do you
even
understand
from
what
a
it does to you?
humanitarian perspective.
Yeah.
Like, this is just very degrading to people, you know?
Yeah, I think that I care about so much as well, and it's something that's so hard we need to somehow figure out a way, and like I feel like I'm fleshing out ideas right now on this, but like how to bring the humanity back to it.
Right.
I think about like if we're encouraging OnlyFans, if we're encouraging this over sexualized culture, I think about this one story of one of the girls at the agency hated doing what she was doing, didn't want to do it anymore, but she'd been doing it for about 5-6 years, made about $1 million, which at early 30s is not retirement money. You have a mortgage, you have car repayments, you're in a very sticky situation.
Right.
And she's like, but I don't know what to do. And so I sat down with her and I was like, okay, beautiful. Let's get you involved in the agency aspect of it. What are you good at? Where could we fit you in the business? And she looked at me and she goes, I'm good at being hot. And I was like, nah, come on, babe. Like, what are you good at? And she looked at me with the most serious look in her face and she goes, I'm not good at anything. This is the only thing that I can do. And I was like, babe, like, no. And then, like, she didn't want to do it anymore. She didn't want to talk about it because you could see that she literally felt so stuck.
It hit a spot in her.
That hurt.
Yeah.
The idea that I am good for nothing except for showing off my body.
And that's what we're promoting here. OnlyFans isn't liberating. It's not empowering at all. It's actually destroying people. It's destroying their identity. Like, I would hate it if we sat here and you guys were like, oh, Vic, we just like hanging out with you because you're pretty. Like, that's all you bring to the table. Don't talk. Don't do anything, just sit there and look cute. I'd be like, I have so much more value than that. Like, what do you, that destroys you. And that's what we're doing when we promote OnlyFans, when we promote this over-sexualization, when we just care about that. We're destroying people's essence. And I think that that's something that we have to take into consideration as well. We are also worthy of big dreams, big aspirations in whatever capacity we have, because there's no limit to our capacity. But we're putting a box on that by telling these girls through our culture, through our mentality, you're only good for how you look. And that, when you break that off, when that's your identity, that's your essence, it literally chips away at these people and it destroys them.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
Okay, friends, that was part 1 of our conversation with Victoria Sinis. Are you on the edge of your seat? I know I definitely was. And we hate to do this to you. We're going to leave you on a cliffhanger. That's right. You are going to be able to catch part 2 of this episode with Victoria, the next part of her story and everything that God's done in her life in the next episode of Let's Talk About It. So stay tuned and we'll see you on the next one.